I have a headache. That was her greeting. 2 months away, client dinners, sleepless flights, lonely hotel nights. And the woman I came home for couldn't even look at me. She didn't turn her head, didn't move under the covers. Just said those 4 words, clipped and clinical. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, suitcase still in hand, watching the shape of her under the blanket like I was seeing a stranger in my bed. "Lisa, it's me," I said, softer than I meant to. "I just got home." Still nothing. I stepped closer. "Aren't you going to say anything?" She shifted, finally, just enough to glance over her shoulder. Her eyes met mine with the warmth of a passing stranger. "Michael, please. Not now." "Not now," I repeated, dropping the suitcase with a dull thud. "Lisa, I've been gone for 2 months. You couldn't even come to the door. I walk in and you act like I'm the plumber here to fix a leak." "Don't do this," she said, rolling away again. But I was already in motion. I crossed the room, pulled the corner of the blanket gently but firmly, just enough to see her face. "Do what?" My voice was tight. "Ask my wife why she won't even look at me after 60 nights apart." "I'm tired," she muttered, pulling the blanket back up. "You think I'm not?" My voice cracked, rising. "You think it was easy being away that long? You think I didn't count the days just to get back to you?" To this, I motioned at the room, only to find I've apparently been erased. Lisa sat up suddenly, blanket slipping off her shoulder. "You want honesty?" she snapped. "Fine. You being gone wasn't that hard." The air got sucked out of the room. I just stared at her, heart thudding. "What did you just say?" She looked away. It was quiet. Predictable. I didn't have to tiptoe around your moods. The house stayed clean. No dishes piling up. No late-night work calls on speakerphone. My mouth opened, but no words came. I didn't recognize this version of her. I'd come home expecting arms around my neck, maybe a half-joking jab about my new haircut. Instead, I got a ledger of how much easier her life was without me. "You rehearsed that, didn't you?" I finally said, my voice flat. "Said it in your head until it didn't sting anymore." Lisa's jaw tensed, but she didn't deny it. "Is there someone else?" I asked, quiet now. She scoffed. "Paranoid already? You've been home 10 minutes. Answer the question." She didn't. She didn't have to. Her silence told me enough. I stepped back, my chest hollowed out like someone had punched clean through me. "I came back to the wrong house," I said. She turned off the bedside lamp without a word. I stood in the dark for a long moment, staring at the silhouette of the woman I used to know. Then I left the room. But I didn't leave the fight behind, because I was going to find out what was really going on. A week passed, and in that time, Lisa floated around the house like a ghost. Still there in form, but gone in every way that used to matter. She made coffee, but never for me. She did laundry, but never folded my clothes. Her words were few, her glances even fewer. Every attempt I made to reach her was met with cold disinterest. But I refused to let it rot in silence. Not anymore. That Sunday morning, I tried again. The house smelled faintly of toasted sourdough and detergent. We were standing in the kitchen, her by the counter, slicing strawberries into a bowl, me a few feet behind, watching her with the kind of weight you only carry when you're grieving someone who's still alive. She wore that navy robe she used to wrap herself in while stealing kisses and making Sunday pancakes. Now it just looked like armor. I stepped up slowly, hand brushing the small of her back. Gentle, almost hesitant. "Hey," I said softly. "I thought maybe we could talk today. Go for a drive. Just us." She didn't stop slicing. "I have errands." I exhaled, trying to stay calm. "Lisa, please." My hand lingered, not grabbing, just resting, trying to close a canyon that had opened between us. Then, crack. She spun and slapped me across the face. The sharp sting was immediate, but it wasn't the pain that stunned me. It was the rage in her eyes. Unfiltered, unprovoked, like she'd been waiting for an excuse. My head snapped sideways, the kitchen lights swinging gently above us like a witness. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I said, stunned. She stood there, chest heaving slightly. "Don't touch me like that again." "Touch you?" I laughed bitterly, tasting metal in my mouth. "I'm your husband, Lisa." "You're a habit," she snapped. "One I'm trying to break." I took a long breath, steadying myself. "Then go ahead," I said. "Break it. But don't stand here pretending you're the victim when I've done nothing but try to fix whatever's broken." Her lips curled in that smug half-smile she'd started using lately. "Fix? You think a road trip and a soft hand on the back is going to fix this?" "No," I said quietly. But honesty might. She said nothing. I shook my head. You want out? Fine. But you don't get to gaslight me while you burn the house down. She picked up the bowl of strawberries and walked past me like I didn't exist. I followed her into the dining room, where she sat and picked at the fruit like we hadn't just detonated the kitchen. I'm warning you, I said, the edge now creeping into my voice. Keep pushing like this, and you'll be celebrating your birthday at your parents' house. Alone. That one hit. Her fork paused midair. She blinked. The silence that followed was thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. And then, just like that, her entire demeanor shifted. She softened. Oh, come on, Michael, she said with a light laugh. Why are you being so dramatic? You slapped me. I didn't mean to. You meant every second of it, I said, voice low. She looked down, adjusted her robe, then forced a gentle smile. I've just been under stress. Work's been crazy. You know how I get. Let's not make this bigger than it is. Her tone was honeyed now, but the memory of her hand cracking across my face was still fresh. The pivot was too sharp, too convenient. And that's when it hit me. Her emotions weren't random. They were tactics. Anger, detachment, seduction, now sudden softness. She was playing roles, each one designed to confuse, to deflect, to keep me chasing shadows. Something was going on, and I wasn't going to keep pretending it wasn't. I said nothing more, just stared at her. She shifted under my gaze for the first time in weeks. And in that moment, I made a silent promise to myself. I would find out the truth. And when I did, she wouldn't see it coming. Lisa's birthday arrived like a perfectly wrapped lie, beautiful on the outside, hollow inside. Our backyard in suburban Michigan had never looked better. String lights zigzagged overhead. The grill sizzled with marinated steaks. A Bluetooth speaker played a curated playlist Lisa had sent me a week earlier. Friends milled about with paper plates and laughter. From the outside, you'd think we were the picture of suburban bliss. But I knew better. Lisa wore a yellow sundress, the one with the low back she used to save for our anniversary dinners. She floated between conversations, wine glass in hand, laugh a little too loud, touches a little too performative. When our eyes met across the yard, she didn't smile. She just blinked and moved on. I was manning the grill, flipping ribeyes, nodding politely to the guys from her office. Some of them looked at me too long, like they knew something. Or maybe I was just paranoid. Then Emily appeared. Lisa's younger sister, 5 years apart but a lifetime different. Where Lisa was polished and calculating, Emily had this unfiltered sincerity to her. Messy hair, a quick laugh, no poker face. She approached with a calm urgency, holding 2 beers. Hey, she said softly. Thought you could use something stronger than soda. I took the bottle. Thanks. She leaned in slightly, eyes scanning the crowd. You free for a second? Sure. She nodded toward the sliding door. Help me carry drinks from the kitchen? We slipped inside. The house was quiet, the sound of laughter now muffled by the walls. Emily opened the fridge and started grabbing bottles, but her hands were shaking slightly. You okay? I asked. She shut the fridge and turned to face me. I wasn't going to say anything, but I can't keep it in anymore. I waited, heart thudding. She lowered her voice. While you were away, I borrowed Lisa's phone one night. I was ordering takeout on her app. She asked me to. A text popped up. I said nothing. It was weird. Just initials. D. But it said something like, can't stop thinking about last night. And Lisa grabbed the phone so fast, I didn't even get to finish reading. I stared at her, jaw clenched. Emily's voice softened, eyes full of something between shame and compassion. I didn't want to assume anything, but the way she reacted, it wasn't nothing. I took a step back, gripping the kitchen counter behind me. D? I repeated. She nodded. Don't know who it is, but she works with a guy named Derek, right? I couldn't feel my hands anymore. Emily moved closer, placing a hand gently on my arm. I'm sorry. I really am. You didn't deserve this. That's when the door slid open behind us. We both turned quickly. It was Lisa, silhouetted in the doorway, cheeks flushed from wine and attention. There you two are, she said with an amused smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Stealing drinks or secrets? I smiled, flat casual, just restocking the cooler. Lisa's gaze lingered on Emily's hand still resting on my arm. Then she tilted her head slightly and turned back to the party. Emily stepped away, eyes down. I exhaled slowly and followed them out. Back in the yard, the lights twinkled, the music resumed, and Lisa tossed her hair over one shoulder, laughing at something a colleague said. But I didn't hear the joke, because in my head, one name echoed again and again. Derek. And now, I wasn't just suspicious. I had a direction, and I wasn't going to stop until I had proof. The next day, I left the house with a paper bag and a plan. Lisa thought I was heading to the auto shop for my oil change. Instead, I parked 3 blocks from her downtown office, slid on a plain navy jacket, and walked through the glass doors of Feldman Plus West, the marketing firm where she'd worked for 5 years. I'd been there before, holiday parties, an open house once. I remembered the way the receptionist smiled like everything was perfect. Today was no different. Hi, welcome in. I smiled politely, just dropping off lunch for Lisa. From her husband. She didn't even check the schedule, just pointed. She's in the creative wing, 3rd door on the right. I nodded. Thanks. I'll find her. But I had no intention of doing that. Not yet. I moved past cubicles filled with clacking keyboards and forced small talk. No one paid me any attention. Just another husband playing delivery boy. Until I saw him. Derek. Tall, sharp haircut, black-rimmed glasses. The kind of guy who thought buttoning his shirt all the way up made him look smart. He was heading toward the hallway near the elevators with a phone in one hand and a paper cup in the other. The minute I saw him, I knew. He was too normal, too composed. And if Emily's hunch was right, this man owed me answers. I waited 20 seconds, then followed. He slipped into the men's room. I pushed the door open just as the air dryer started humming. Derek stood at the sink, drying his hands, oblivious. I stepped inside and let the door close behind me with a dull click. He glanced up at the mirror. We made eye contact. Recognition flickered in his eyes, but only for a second. Hey, he said uncertainly. You're Michael, Lisa's husband. My voice was even. Mind if I ask you something? He froze, one hand still halfway to the towel dispenser. Sure, he said, though his tone had already cracked. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. You and I both know why I'm here. So I'll keep this simple. You're going to tell me exactly what's been happening between you and my wife, or I take what I know to HR. And trust me, I'll make it sound worse than it probably is. Derek swallowed hard. His jaw clenched, but the bravado was already peeling. There's nothing, don't lie. I said, my voice now steel. I'm giving you a way out. You tell me the truth, and I walk out of here without dragging this place through the mud. He looked down at the sink. The mirror didn't lie. His face was turning pale. I didn't mean for it to happen, he mumbled. I didn't blink. How long? He winced. A few months. It started when you were on your last trip. One night after drinks with the team, she said she was lonely and, stop. I didn't need the details. Derek looked like a man realizing he'd just stepped off a cliff. Does HR know anything? I asked. He shook his head. No. No one. We kept it quiet. We weren't stupid. I nodded slowly. You were exactly that. I pulled a small voice recorder out of my coat pocket, pressed stop, and slipped it into my jacket again. His eyes widened. Wait. Were you? Thanks for the confession, I said coolly, turning to the door. I'll let Lisa know lunch didn't seem appropriate today. I walked out before he could speak again. Back in the parking garage, I sat in my car with the bag still on the passenger seat, untouched, forgotten. I stared at the windshield, at the buildings beyond, the traffic crawling along like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. I had my answer. And now, it was time to decide what I'd do with it. 2 days later, I texted Emily. Still owe you that drink. You free tonight? She responded instantly. 8 p.m. Casella Wine Bar. Corner booth. First round's on me. I arrived 5 minutes early. Casella was a low-lit spot tucked between a florist and a Pilates studio. One of those places with hanging Edison bulbs, jazz humming softly, and wine bottles displayed like artwork. The kind of atmosphere that didn't demand anything from you, which is exactly what I needed. Emily was already there, swirling a glass of Cabernet, dressed in a slate gray sweater and jeans. She looked up when I approached, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a face that didn't expect me to pretend everything was fine. I slid into the booth across from her. You picked a good spot. She smiled faintly. Figured we could use somewhere that doesn't smell like grill smoke or birthday cake. A waitress came. I ordered a red blend. No food, just the drink. For a while, we didn't speak. We let the silence breathe. I appreciated that. Finally, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the voice recorder, set it on the table like a centerpiece. Emily's brows raised. Is that Derek? Full confession. Bathroom at Lisa's office. Her eyes widened. You're kidding. I don't joke about things like this anymore. She reached for the recorder, didn't press play, just held it, studying it like it was a weapon wrapped in plastic. Did he admit everything? Every word. I said. Right down to how long. Said it started during my last trip. She told him she was lonely. One thing led to another. Emily looked down, fingers tightening around the glass stem. I took a long sip of my wine, the burn familiar now. Thank you for trusting me with what you saw. You didn't have to get involved. She exhaled. I did though. You're my brother-in-law, Michael, and you didn't deserve to be kept in the dark. Lisa's my sister, but that doesn't mean I have to co-sign her lies. Her words were soft, but steady. That's when I noticed her voice tremble slightly at the end. Not from fear, from hurt. You knew something was wrong before I did, didn't you? I asked. Emily stared at the rim of her glass. She changed. Last few months, she stopped talking about you. Got secretive. Smiled at her phone too much. I nodded slowly. Yeah, she was rewriting the rules, hoping I wouldn't notice until it was too late. But you did, she said, and you didn't fall apart. I looked at her. That was when I realized. Emily didn't just admire that I'd kept my composure. She needed it. It gave her permission to stop pretending to. So, she said, leaning forward, what now? I leaned back in the booth. Now? I stopped reacting. I stopped chasing her moods. I play my hand, one move at a time. Emily gave a soft, almost proud laugh. That's cold, Michael. Not cold, I replied. Clear. We drank in silence for a while after that. But it wasn't awkward. If anything, it was oddly comforting. No lies. No tension. No masks. Just two people sitting across from each other in the aftermath of betrayal, finding a strange calm in the wreckage. As the second glass disappeared, Emily looked up. Her eyes weren't sad. They were steady. I'm here if you need anything. Just say the word. I met her gaze. I will. And I meant it. Because in a world where Lisa had become a stranger in her own skin, Emily was the first honest voice I'd heard in a long time. And now, I had a plan. I came home later than usual. On purpose. The wine with Emily had worn off hours ago, but the clarity it gave me lingered. I parked down the street and walked the rest of the way. Needed the cold air. Needed the time. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. The hallway light was dimmed, and I noticed something strange right away. Soft music playing from the bedroom. Jazz. Something smooth, like the kind she used to put on when she wanted to feel seductive. A knot formed in my chest. I pushed open the bedroom door. And there she was. Lisa. Sitting on the edge of the bed, lit by the warm glow of a bedside lamp. She wore the satin black slip she hadn't touched in months. Her legs were crossed, one arm draped casually over her knee, glass of wine in hand. Her hair was down, her lips painted. She looked up, smiled slowly. Hey, stranger. I stared at her, unmoving. It's late. You're late, she corrected, lifting the glass. I waited up. I walked in, tossed my keys on the dresser. You haven't done that in a while. She tilted her head. Maybe I missed you. I didn't answer. She stood and walked toward me, barefoot, the soft sweep of her dress brushing her legs with each step. She reached out, ran her hand along my chest like it was a script she'd memorized years ago. I've been thinking, she whispered. We've been distant. Cold. And I hate it. My body didn't react. My heart didn't lurch. Nothing about this felt real. So I stepped back. Her hand dropped. I don't want you, I said quietly. The words landed like a slap. She blinked, smile faltering. Excuse me. You heard me. Her entire face shifted, faster than I could have predicted. Confusion first, then hurt, then anger. What the hell is wrong with you? She hissed. I'm standing here trying, and you're throwing it in my face? No, I said, voice steady. You're performing. That's not the same as trying. You think I'm faking this? She scoffed. I've been lonely too, Michael. I've missed you. I met her eyes. You missed control. That's not the same either. She stepped closer again, this time with a different look, one I recognized from every argument we'd ever had. Manipulation dressed up as vulnerability. I made mistakes, she said, voice soft now. But we've made it through worse. Can't we fix it? You're not sorry, I said. You're scared. Her lip trembled, just barely. That's not fair. I stepped past her and opened the closet, pulled out a fresh shirt, avoided her gaze. You weren't scared when you lied, when you cheated. You weren't scared when you looked me in the eyes every morning and pretended I was the fool. She didn't deny it. She just sat down slowly on the bed, like her legs didn't trust her anymore. I don't want to fight, she said quietly. Good, I replied, turning to face her. Because I'm not fighting anymore. I'm done reacting. The room hung in silence for a long moment. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was. And maybe she didn't. Because the man standing in front of her wasn't the same one who left 2 months ago with hopeful eyes and a suitcase full of trust. That man was gone. And in his place stood someone colder, calmer, and far more dangerous. The courthouse hallway smelled like old paper and industrial-strength floor wax. I stood there alone, manila folder in hand, waiting for the clerk to finish stamping the copy. The divorce papers were simple, factual, no theatrics, no drawn-out bitterness in black ink. Just the beginning of the end. She handed them back to me without looking up. You'll receive a hearing date in the mail. Next. That was it. No fanfare, no lightning bolt, just a quiet transaction that felt heavier than any verdict. Outside, the autumn wind cut through my coat, but I welcomed the cold. It reminded me I was still in control, still moving. I didn't go home. Instead, I texted Emily. Are you around? I could use that wine you promised. Her reply came quick, doors open. Come by. Her apartment was modest, 2-bedroom, 3rd floor, the kind of place that smelled like vanilla candles and fresh laundry. She wore joggers and an old college sweatshirt, her hair tied in a loose bun. The moment I stepped inside, she looked at me like she already knew. You did it, she said softly. I nodded. Filed this morning. She walked into the kitchen, uncorked a bottle, poured 2 glasses, and handed me one without a word. We sat on her couch, the city lights glowing through the window behind her. No TV, no distractions. Just the clink of our glasses and the silence of 2 people no longer pretending. I should feel sadder, I said. You're allowed to feel relieved. I took a long sip, let it burn down slowly. Emily curled her legs beneath her. What did she say when you told her? I didn't. Her brows lifted. You filed without telling her? I'll let the paperwork do the talking. Emily nodded slowly, almost impressed. That's cold. I gave a half smile. So I've been told. The silence stretched, but it wasn't awkward. It was calm, comfortable. Then she spoke again, voice softer now. You know, for what it's worth. I think you're doing the right thing. I'm not sure what the right thing is anymore. Emily reached over, placed her hand gently over mine. Then maybe it's just about doing the thing that doesn't hurt anymore. Our eyes met. Her gaze didn't flinch. It wasn't pity. It wasn't charity. It was something steadier. Affirmation. I didn't move. Didn't break the moment. Neither did she. Until finally, with a quiet sigh, she said, You can stay, if you want. You don't have to drive home tonight. I watched her closely. Are you sure? She nodded. I don't say things I don't mean. So I stayed. We talked for hours. About nothing. About everything. Childhood. Family. What it felt like to lose trust, and how strange it was to suddenly feel free. The wine bottle emptied. Laughter took the edge off the sorrow, and for the first time in weeks, I felt human again. Somewhere near midnight, the conversation slowed. We sat side by side on the couch, the glow from the street lamp soft against her face. She turned to me. I hate that this started like this, she said quietly. But I'm glad you're not going through it alone. Neither of us moved. And then I kissed her. There was no grand music. No thunderclap of passion. Just quiet warmth. Honest, simple, undeniable. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about Lisa. It was about presence. 2 people meeting in the middle of something broken and finding a moment of clarity. I stayed the night. While somewhere across town, Lisa called me 6 times. I didn't answer. I didn't even check the voicemails. Some silences are earned. And this one? It was long overdue. It was the kind of evening that should have passed without incident. Just drinks, grilled chicken, half-baked jokes, and old stories rehashed over wine. A few mutual friends had invited Lisa and me, well, us, out of habit, to a casual dinner at their place. I had planned to decline, but Emily was invited, too. She texted me the night before, You should come. Trust me. So I did. The house was packed. Laughter bounced off the walls, the kind of easy camaraderie that dulls tension and makes everyone talk a little louder than necessary. Lisa arrived before I did. She was already half a glass in when I walked through the door, wearing a tightly belted dress that was 2 sizes too small for the occasion and a smile that was stretched just a little too wide. Emily, on the other hand, wore something quiet, soft blue, simple earrings. Effortless, like she hadn't come to win attention but ended up getting it anyway. The dinner table seated 10, couples on each end, a few co-workers scattered in between. Lisa and I were across from each other. Emily was beside me. The conversation moved from harmless gossip to travel to someone's toddler learning curse words. It was light, breezy, forgettable, until Lisa made it unforgettable. It started with a smirk. "So," she said, swirling her glass. "How was the big solo return from Michael? 2 months gone, and somehow the world didn't collapse without you." A few chuckles. "Polite." I smiled thinly. "Managed just fine, actually." She leaned in, elbows on the table, eyes glittering. "Must have been tough, though? No wife to come home to. No one to warm the bed." A few eyebrows lifted. Someone coughed. Someone else looked away. I didn't rise to it. But she wasn't done. She turned to the woman seated beside her and asked, loud enough for the table to hear, "You know what's wild? He didn't even touch me when he got back. 2 months. Nothing. Nada. Laughter this time, but awkward. The kind that ends too quickly." Emily set down her fork, wiped her mouth, and took a small sip of wine. Then, without turning her head, she said, "Well, maybe he was just tired after last night." The room went silent. Like, silent. You could hear someone's fork hit their plate. Someone else shifted in their chair. Lisa blinked. "What happened last night?" she asked slowly, voice a notch too high. Emily finally turned to face her. Smiled. "Oh, didn't he tell you? That was the match." Lisa's chair scraped loudly as she stood. "What happened last night?" All eyes were on us now. On her. I calmly set down my drink and rose to my feet. "Let's take a walk." "No," she snapped. "You don't get to drop that and act like it's nothing." I looked at the hosts. "Thanks for dinner. Sorry to leave early." I guided Lisa toward the door, her heels clicking furiously across the tile. Once outside, the cool air hit her and she exploded. "You think this is funny? You bring my sister here and let her humiliate me in front of everyone." I faced her squarely. "You started it, Lisa." "Is it true?" she demanded, eyes wild now. "Did you sleep with her?" I didn't answer. Not right away, because I didn't owe her a single ounce of defense. So I said the only thing that mattered. "You lost the right to be shocked." Her voice cracked. "So that's a yes." I stepped off the porch, walking toward my car. She didn't follow. Behind me, I heard her let out a shaky, bitter laugh. "You two deserve each other," she spat. I paused, looked back once. "No," I said quietly. "We earned each other." Then I got in the car, and I left her standing alone in the dark. She was waiting when I got home. Lights on, arms crossed, pacing like a caged animal in the living room. The second I stepped through the door, Lisa launched. "What the hell are you doing, Michael?" she snapped. "Public humiliation now? That's your idea of getting even?" I shut the door behind me calmly, hung up my jacket. "You humiliated yourself." "Oh, don't give me that Zen crap," she scoffed. "You've been hiding out with her, playing house with my sister, while I'm here trying to fix our marriage." I turned to face her. "You tried to fix it after I caught you cheating." Her face froze. I walked past her, slow and steady, like I had all the time in the world. Like her tantrum was background noise. "You're deflecting," she hissed, following me into the kitchen. "You're trying to rewrite history so you don't have to admit you abandoned me." I poured a glass of water, took a sip, then said, "I know about Derek." Silence. Pure, utter silence. Her lips parted. She blinked. Once, twice, then tilted her head. "Excuse me." "You heard me." Her arms dropped slowly. "Is that what this is about? Some office gossip?" I turned toward her fully now. "No, it's about your affair." "Wow," she laughed hollow. "You've officially lost it." "I have a recording, Lisa, of Derek confessing." That landed hard. The breath went out of her like she'd been punched. "You what?" "I visited your office. Gave him a choice, truth or HR. He folded like a cheap suit." She stumbled back a step, hand gripping the back of a chair. "You recorded him?" I nodded. "Every word." She looked away, laughed nervously. "You can't use that. That's illegal or something." "I'm not using it for court," I said. "I'm using it to remind myself I'm not crazy." She collapsed into the chair she'd been gripping. All the sharpness melted from her face, replaced by something else, something far more honest, panic. And then the real truth finally slipped past her lips. I needed someone. While you were gone. You're always working. You're never here. I stared at her, jaw tightening. That's your justification? She met my eyes. You weren't there, Michael. I didn't flinch. Neither were you. She swallowed hard. So what? You're going to punish me? You're going to play dirty now? You want me to beg? No, I said. I want you to live with the consequences. She stood again. Fine. Then go. Leave. But don't pretend you didn't do anything wrong. Don't pretend you're innocent. I didn't rise to it. I just finished my water, placed the glass in the sink, and turned to her one last time. The papers are already filed. That hit like thunder. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. I kept going. You said, live with it or file for divorce. So I did both. Her face cracked open then. The practiced expressions, the rehearsed strength, all of it crumbled. You're serious? I nodded. You didn't even tell me, because I'm done telling you things you ignore. She reached out suddenly, grabbing my wrist. Michael, please. I gently pulled free. You broke something that doesn't get fixed with a dress and a glass of wine. Her shoulders sagged. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. You'll regret this, she whispered. I looked her dead in the eye. No. I'll regret wasting so much time trying to save something you were already destroying. And with that, I walked out of the room. Out of the wreckage. Out of the version of myself that tolerated half-truths and manipulation. And I didn't look back. A week passed. The paperwork was filed. The silence from Lisa was deafening and oddly peaceful. No calls. No dramatics. Just the slow settling of dust after the collapse. Then came the knock on my door. Emily. She stood there with a crooked grin and a bottle of champagne. I figured, she said, holding up the bottle, we should re-celebrate last week. I raised a brow. The night of destruction or the night of liberation? Depends on who you ask, she smirked. I stepped aside. Come in. She walked in like she belonged there. She did, in a way, more than Lisa ever had. She wore jeans, a white tee under an open flannel, and a spark in her eye that hadn't been there during the chaos. She looked settled, strong, like she'd stepped out from under someone else's shadow. I brought the cheap stuff, she said, setting the bottle on the counter. Because I figured we've already blown our budget on emotional trauma this month. I laughed. You're not wrong. She popped the cork with a grin, poured us each a glass, and raised hers. To clean slates, she said. To knowing when to stop fighting for the wrong thing, I added. We clinked. The bubbles hit light and easy. No heaviness. No expectations. Just two people who had stood in the fire and walked out the other side. We sat on the couch, the same one I'd once avoided like a landmine. Now it felt like neutral ground. Emily turned to me, voice softer now. You look different. Different bad. No, she said. Like you can breathe again. I nodded. I didn't realize how much of myself I'd buried trying to keep things normal. Her expression turned thoughtful. You were never the problem, Michael. You were just trying to keep the house from falling while she was lighting matches in every room. I looked at her, studied the curve of her smile, the steadiness in her eyes. You stayed honest through all of it. That mattered more than you know. She shrugged. Sometimes the truth costs you people, but keeping lies costs you. We sat in quiet for a while, and then she turned to me again. So what now? I grinned. Now? I learned how to cook something that doesn't involve a microwave. She laughed. Ambitious. I might also explore the wild world of laundry folding. Daring. And, I added, I might occasionally drink wine with a certain woman who tells the truth even when it's messy. Emily leaned in, her voice low and warm. Sounds like a good plan. I didn't kiss her. Not then. This wasn't about rushing into something new. This was about breathing again. About the quiet strength of knowing who stood beside you when everything else fell apart. She smiled at me over the rim of her glass. And in that moment, nothing was broken anymore. It arrived on a Thursday. A formal email. Subject line, internal review notice, ethics investigation. I didn't open it. I already knew what it said. I'd sent the audio file, Derek's confession, clipped and clear, to Lisa's HR department 3 days earlier. No note. No threats. Just the truth, neatly packaged in digital form. It wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. Feldman plus West had a strict code of conduct. No intra-office relationships between reporting lines. No conflicts of interest, especially when one of them was married and using sick days for hotel liaisons. The company couldn't ignore it, and they didn't. By Friday, Derek was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Lisa was temporarily reassigned to off-site work. The fallout was quiet but undeniable. I didn't celebrate. There was no victory dance. Just a silent moment at my desk, coffee in hand, knowing that finally, there was weight behind my silence. Something undeniable. Something earned. That evening, I stood at the kitchen window, watching the trees sway, their leaves halfway into gold. Emily came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. "They called her today," she said softly. "HR. She's spiraling." "I know. You okay?" I turned to face her. "Yeah." Because I was. Not because she was falling, but because I wasn't. I wasn't the one hiding. I wasn't the one lying. And I wasn't the one who needed the last word to feel powerful. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers. And sometimes it arrives with a time-stamped file and a well-worded subject line. I kissed Emily on the forehead, her arms still wrapped around me. Whatever came next, whatever life looked like beyond betrayal, beyond the rubble, I knew one thing for sure. I would never again mistake peace for quiet. And I would never again chase someone who'd already walked away. Some stories don't need rewriting. They just need to end. Clean. True. And exactly where they were meant to.